Chapter 35. By 5 o'clock the village hall was empty. There were some boxes of books and a bag of old clothes left, but we had sold most of the stuff. Mum made a fresh pot of tea and we sat down to finish the rest of the cakes and total up the money. There were piles of it, coins stacked up and bags of notes. Rob and his dad joined us right at the end. "Well, the grand total is," said Hamish with a big grin, £1,462.08. All the adults cheered, but I didn't. It wasn't enough. We'd found out at the end of the week that it wasn't that simple just to fly Geneva out here. She wasn't British, so her treatment would have to be paid for, and it would cost tens of thousands of pounds. I went to sit on the same table with Rob and Ewan. "It's a start," said Rob. "We can raise more." I nodded. I didn't want Rob to think he'd sold his bike for nothing. "It's sold then," said Rob. "I'm sorry," I said. Ewan was shaking his head in disbelief. "I still can't believe you did it," he said. "I mean, that bike was a part of you. What will you do without wheels?" Rob slumped further into his seat. "I've still got legs," he said with a half laugh. "I guess I'll have to take up running instead." It was dark by the time we'd cleared the hall and put the chairs away. We walked out into the car park while Mum locked up the village hall. Ewan nudged me. "Over there," he said. I looked across the road. Under the street lamp stood Mr. McNair with Rob's bike. Rob noticed too, but kept his head down and followed his dad to the car. Mr. McNair wheeled the bike over to us and stared at Rob from under his bushy eyebrows. There was an awkward silence. Mr. McNair didn't take his eyes off Rob. "So you're Rob, the boy with the mean mouth and the big wheels," he said. "Mean mouth and no manners, that's what I once heard." Mr. McNair was so close to us. I could see the spidery veins across the whites of his eyes and the lined, bristly skin of his face. Rob glanced at his bike and then at the ground. "Come on," said Rob's dad, pulling Rob away. Mr. McNair pushed the bike closer, almost touching Rob. The tick, tick, tick of the turning wheels sounded loud in the silence. "It seems," he said, "you've got your manners back." Rob turned to look at him. Mr. McNair glared at him gruffly. "You better have your bike back too. It's no use to me." He pushed the bike into Rob's hands and patted the plastic bag with Ewan's fish. "I'll keep these though. It's a long time since I had a bit of fresh trout." He tucked the bag under his arm and shuffled away up the dark street. "Wait," called Mum. "Mr. McNair, maybe I could cook those trout for you, with a bit of parsley and butter?" Mr. McNair turned and nodded. "Aye, Mrs. McGregor, that'll be grand." I glanced at Rob. He was speechless. "You'll have to ride home now," said his dad. Rob grinned big and wide. He swung his leg over the bike and circled round the car park, shooting up and down the grassy banks. "Watch out!" I yelled. A car shot into the car park and screeched to a stop beside us, headlights full on, blaring. A young woman, blonde and smartly dressed, opened the door. "Is this the village hall?" she asked. Dad nodded. She smiled at all of us. "I'm looking for Callum McGregor," she said. Everyone looked in my direction. "That's me," I said. She held out her hand. "Karen Burrows," she said. "I heard there's a village fair here." "I'm afraid it's finished," I said. "You've missed it." "Oh." She raised her eyebrows. "No matter. I'm from the Highland Chronicle. I want to write a piece on your fundraising." I knew the Highland Chronicle. It was the local paper for the area, with local news and events and adverts. "I'm sorry, but you're a bit late," I said. "It's not that," she said. She reached into the car for her notepad and voice recorder. She smiled at me, a sort of smile that held known secrets. "It's just I heard you're raising money for an African girl." I nodded, but a deep knot tightened in the pit of my stomach. "And," she said, "it's all because of an osprey you saved, here in Scotland. Is that true?"